Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show. Hope you're doing well. And look who is joining us. We've got a music legend joining us here on the Jim Masters Show series. George Bunnell, yes, is coming to us from Calabasas, California. Beautiful part, just sort of northwest of Los Angeles. Legendary bassist, songwriter from the Strawberry Alarm Clock, the very popular and legendary 1960s Psychedelic American Rock Band. Yes, that was formed back in 67 with the origins in Glendale, California, a city about 10 miles north of downtown Los Angeles. They're best known for their single in 67, the hit Incense and Peppermints, categorized as acid rock, psychedelic, pop, sunshine pop. They charted 5 songs, including top 40 hits, 2 of them. Also, the band, well, let me tell you, they've had different incarnations and it's been really incredible. The members that have come through, and they are still performing today, which is really fantastic. Let's welcome our very special guest live and direct from, we'll talk more about the history. We'll talk about current things that they're working on. Live and direct from Los Angeles, George is joining us, and it's so awesome to have him here. Hey, George, welcome to the Jim Masters Show, and Happy New Year.
There I am.
There you are. Boom.
Yeah.
So how are things? There's been rain, of course, throughout California. How about where you are there? Are you sitting in a rowboat or are you safe and sound?
Pretty safe and sound, even though we're kind of in the foothills here. It actually, the ground behind my house is, I guess it's called shale. It's rock like.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't go anywhere. You can't even grow anything in it. So so it doesn't run off. I guess we're lucky in that department.
Well, I don't think you're allowed to live, doing what you do for a living. I don't think you're allowed to live anywhere else unless the foundation is rock, right?
Yeah. They could, I'm not bragging, but we bought this house. It had a pool in it, and the friend of ours that we bought it from said that it was so hard to dig the pool because of the rock underneath. They could only make it 5 feet deep.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. How long have you been there?
Oh, gosh. Let's see, 1996. So 27? Yeah, 6 and 7 is 13. 27 years.
Wow. That's fantastic.
I grew up out here in Calabasas, though. So
yeah, it's a beautiful area, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's really nice. Yeah.
I did a project for all over, huh?
Yeah.
Did a project for my professional work over at a cool place there in Calabasas called the Hope Health Center. It's a really renowned cancer treatment center, and the crew and I, we had lunch at Love's. Isn't that a great place?
Yeah. I as a matter of fact, I go there kind of semi-regularly for lunch with some friends, with Elliot Easton of the Cars.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Carson of David Bowie and a couple other guys. We meet there for lunch on Fridays a lot of the times. And
what I loved about it being, we're on the East Coast here in the New York area, and having been born and raised on the East Coast, that place has a real East Coast feel to it. It's like a New York diner.
Yeah. It's funny because we do have really good delis out here, and Love's is good, but it's not as good as some of the other ones.
Some of the originals. Yeah.
And I'm a Goyish cup.
Yeah.
But, and I can tell that it's not as good as some of the others. But anyway.
Some of the locally owned places. Yeah. So how have you been? You kicked off the new year, and how are your holidays?
Really kind of fun. It was busy because Strawberry Alarm Clock, we played at the Whiskey A Go-Go on December 16th. And then right after that, we went into the recording studio with our pal Michael Stern. And it's a studio called Rock Cellar Studios, owned by another friend of ours, Kevin Wax. And we started recording new material. And we're having a blast. We go in again tomorrow, actually, to add more stuff to it. And we're just having a great time.
How did you guys initially form? How did the name come about too, Strawberry Alarm Clock, for those who aren't familiar with the origins of the group?
Well, the band was a combo of two different groups. I was in a band with my best friend, Steve Bartek, and some other friends of ours. And Steve and I wrote songs for the Strawberry Alarm Clock. And our band was called Waterford Train, and it later became a band called Buffington Roads. And then the Strawberry Alarm Clock were called the Sixpence. And they had Mark Whites and Gene Gunnels and all these guys, and Ed King, who went on to Lynyrd Skynyrd. And my songwriting partner, Steve Bartek, went on to Oingo Boingo, which wasn't a big thing on the East Coast, but out here, they were huge.
Yeah.
And anyway, my dog just is talking to me.
Oh, we love that. Hey, it happens every time. Dogs, children, birds flying people's heads.
Oh,
If the dog wants to come in and jump on your lap, let
he
him.
just came over to tell me that he goes, it's because it's one of his feeding times. So
Is it?
yes,
He eats at 4 Pacific, right?
Yeah, he's funny.
Well, if
Anyway,
he pops in the room, let him. The audience, they love when that happens.
Oh,
And it happens all the time.
he's a little camera shy. He just went down the hall, but he's a
Oh.
black chow chow, so he's beautiful and he's
I would say if he's non-union. If he's union, then maybe not put him on because he'll cost us a fortune.
Yeah.
Especially if he barks. I think they get paid per bark, right? So you're mentioning the amalgamation of the various groups came
we
together.
had groups, and so their drummer, Gene Gunnels, who's actually in our band now,
Right.
Gene quit. He played drums on Incense and Peppermints, but when he quit because nothing was going on with their band, and his girlfriend said, you have to make a decision, and I want you to have a real job, and da 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 da. And so he bolted, and then they got our drummer from my band, Randy Seal, because he was already going over there and helping them with harmonies and stuff on Incense and Peppermints. They had already recorded it. Well, so Gene had played drums on Incense and Peppermints and left the band. And then Randy came in and did all the harmony vocals on Incense and Peppermints. And then they said, okay, well, we have a record deal and we need songs. And he goes, well, my guys in my other band, George and Steve, write songs, and they've got a whole bunch of songs. And so Ed King and Mark Whites both said, well, bring them over, have them come over and play us the songs. So we went over there, and they said, oh, we love all these songs. Let's do them all. Let's go in the studio and record. So it was kind of amazing. Steve and I went in. Steve played flute on the first Incense and Peppermints album, and I played bass on a bunch of stuff. Ed played bass on some stuff, and they had a bass player, Gary LeVitro, and he played bass on some of the stuff on the first album. And but Incense and Peppermints was actually Ed King playing bass. And anyway, so at that session, they said, well, can you be in the band? And I thought, oh no, I got to go tell my other guys in the band that I would be leaving. And they said, well, we have a record deal. And I thought, yeah, they do. And so Steve and I, we lived next door to each other. We went back to our parents. Steve was only 15 years old. He tells his mom, and I tell my mom. My mom goes, no, you're going to college. You're not going to go on. We had just graduated. I had just graduated high school in 67, June of 67. And so this was just a couple of months or a month later, probably. And so Steve's mom goes, absolutely not. You're finishing high school. He was 15 and a half or something. Mm-hmm. And we go back, and I tell them I can do it, Steve can't. And they were like, oh, okay. So, and then there was another little thing that happened on Incense and Peppermints, which was they tried Randy on the lead vocal, and they tried Lee Freeman on the lead vocal, and they tried Mark Whites on the lead vocal. And their voices weren't exactly right for the song, and so the producer and the manager also had another artist named Gregory Munford, and Greg's voice, he was just happened to be there at the studio. He was always there, and he was always doing his own material. And so Greg, they said, Greg, get up and try it. And so he goes over to the mic and lays down a track, and it was perfect. So they said, okay, let's go with that. It's a demo. They thought that the flip side, which was a song that Mark Weitz wrote and sang called The Birdman of Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the producer and the manager thought was the lead single, because in those days, you had side A and side B. Well, and so that the DJs knew which to push, and so they had the A side was Birdman of Alcatraz, and the B side was Incense and Peppermints. And the first DJ that broke the song, Johnny Fairchild, said, "You guys are crazy. Incense and Peppermints is the lead song. That's the lead single. That's what you're going to go. That's what we're going to go with." And so they started playing that up in Santa Barbara on KIST radio. And it became the most requested song of the week a couple of weeks in a row. And so then it was obvious that's the song to go with. And the rest is history, basically. It just went from radios. The band, even when I got in the band, we were going from radio station to radio station, promoting the song with disc jockeys and getting them to play it. So it was legwork at first, and then all of a sudden it got picked up in LA, which we were in San Diego and Palm Springs and Santa Barbara. And then when LA took it, it went on a station here called KBLA.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Diamond, and it was called the Diamond Mine, and or Mind, the Diamond Mind.
Yeah.
and so he started playing it, and then it really took off here. It was for 2 weeks, it was the most requested song in LA. And then it went across the country in a flash. I forget the guy's name, but there was
what was that like for you guys? Young guys, and you're coming together and you're all excited, and all of a sudden this goes boom.
Yeah, it's a frightening thing, actually.
Yes, I can imagine.
We knew that we wanted to be a band and we wanted to make it. We knew that much, but that's why we were doing it. But then it took on a life of its own, and at first it was us doing it. It was us doing the legwork and going out and playing local shows and stuff. Then all of a sudden, when it went national, that was different. All of a sudden, they said, you're climbing the charts. You're on Billboard. It's climbing. And lo and behold, it went all the way to number 1. And just around that time, the Beach Boys, well, a little before that, they had come to one of our recording sessions and said, "We really like your album, and we want you to tour with us. We want you to go on tour with us and the Buffalo Springfield." Well, they were both LA bands and favorite bands of ours. And, so it was like, oh man, we're going to go on tour with, oh no. And we were 18. So except for Mark, our keyboard player, was 21. And so he's like, we couldn't believe it. We're still like major fans of these other bands. And the Beach Boys had been around for years already. And in 1967. Yeah. And so I'll never forget, Mike Love came to our recording session and said, he had a clipboard, and it had the tour rosters for 2 tours. They said, "You're going to do 2 tours with us, one for the East Coast and one for the South." And the East Coast one was their 5th annual Thanksgiving tour, the Beach Boys. And the Southern one was in April of 68, and that was their Easter tour. So unfortunately, the Easter tour got screwed up because of the Martin Luther King assassination. And we were in the South, and they said, "We're going to have to cancel a bunch of these shows." And you guys, as a matter of fact, can't go out of your hotel room right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we were way white, and so it was not a good time to be being seen and in public. So and being having notoriety, not so much us, but the Beach Boys for sure. Anyway, we were sequestered in a
Mm.
hotel for a while, and but anyway, the tours were amazing, and we were well. The very first show was in Washington D.C., and it was what was that? Oh, Constitution Hall, and that was like November 18th, and I think our keyboard player Mark turned 22 on the 19th. So we were just babes, and I remember here's a good story for you. We walked into the empty Constitution Hall, and on the stage are the Beach Boys. Yeah, that's us in Washington there. And on the stage are the Beach Boys doing their sound check, and they stop everything, and they see us come in down the aisle, and they went, "Hey, Strawberry Alarm Clock, all right, come on down, take a seat, sit down there with Buffalo Springfield." So the Springfield were sitting in the middle of the theater, and they had turned around and looked at us and waved us over. And I was the first one down and sat next to Neil Young, of all people, one of my idols, And so I sit down next to him, and everybody's like, "Hi, hi, hi." And then I went, "All right," because they said, "All right, quiet everybody," and they were going to count off and do a song. Well, I looked at Neil and I said, "All right, surf music." And I'm 18 and loose lips kind of a thing. And he goes, "Prepare to have your mind blown." And I was like, "Oops, time to shut up." And so I shut up, and Daryl Dragon, who was their band leader at the time, and he counted off, and they went into God Only Knows, and they had a 12-piece backing band, strings and brass and everything. I couldn't believe my ears, and the hair stood up on my arms. I was in shock. I had never heard anything remotely that good live, and there it was, and wow. Then they said, "Okay, Strawberry Alarm Clock, come on the stage and do your sound check." And we're like,
You're next.
like, whoa, okay. And so I guess the Springfield had already done theirs, that would have even made it worse. They were like my favorite band at the moment, and so and they were killer, every one of them were great. And so anyway, that's my Beach Boy introduction story.
That's amazing, right? Huh? I mean, these are amazing, iconic sort of images and feelings that come back when you remember them all. Would you say that you guys shot up quickly, or was it progressive?
Yeah, well, it was progressive until it was quick. It like
Right?
Incense and Peppermints was recorded, I think, in maybe March of 1967, and it was the first release of it was on the manager's own label called All American Records, and that came out March, April, May, or something like that. And as a matter of fact, it was May 7th it came out, and so it took all the way until November. November 22nd is when it actually hit number one on Billboard. So in 67. So it took that much time from May all the way up to November.
To have it right,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
it was on the charts. It took 6 months to get up there, and then it stayed there for a week. But it
right.
made it to number one. And I remember that, we were with the Beach Boys that week when it hit number one, and they said, "You guys have no idea what you just did." I mean, hitting number one is the most elusive thing that on the Billboard, Hot 100 is
Just doesn't
great.
happen for everybody, right?
Great songs. You'll see, like, I Can See for Miles like made it to number 8, you know, and there's a bunch of other stuff like that.
Just absolutely incredible when you think about it too, and the amount of material that came as a result just, flowed out. And we've got some album covers here that we want to sort of spark people's memory with. Of course, you were talking about Incense and Peppermints, iconic. And then also this too, Wake Up, It's Tomorrow following that. Tell us about this one.
Okay, so Wake Up, It's Tomorrow was, we moved to a different studio and a 16-track recording. And the first one was an 8-track recording. Same engineer though went with us, Paul Buff, and same producer and everybody. But on the second album, they had, like when I got in the band, there were 2 bass players, and I was playing guitar and bass and other things, percussion and stuff. Well, they fired the other bass player. It's a long story, but they did, and so then I was the sole bass player for the second album. And although Ed King was a bass player too, so he would do a lot of bass parts. We shared things back and forth. We both played on a couple of songs. One of the songs on that album is called Sitting on a Star, and I'm playing fuzz bass and Ed's playing regular bass. And so it's kind of fun. We did that kind of stuff. But that album, we at that point had more carte blanche. We could sit and do whatever we wanted. We could experiment in the studio because we had the major success of the first album. The first album made it to number 11 on Billboard, on the album chart. And so that propelled us to take our time and do what we wanted to do for the second album. There was a bit of a rush, though, to it because the second single, called Tomorrow, which it made it to number 23 on Billboard. Tomorrow was on the second album. And so the mistake I always thought was there's a whole more long story here, but the Incense and Peppermints, the writing credit was taken away from Mark White and Ed King, who wrote the music. They wrote the music before the lyrics were ever even thought of, and recorded this Incense and Peppermints was completely, the music track was completely done. The actual music track that you hear of the hit record, and it was an instrumental. And then when it came time to put, they put, somebody else wrote lyrics to it, John Carter, and it was the producer Frank Slay said, I think that John Carter has this title, Incense and Peppermints, that suits this music, and which he was right. And so John Carter finished his set of lyrics to the title Incense and Peppermints. Well, when it came time to send in the publishing and stuff, the copyright, the manager, who was a crook anyway, Bill Holmes, it was like,
it always seems to be a theme with that. Yeah.
A nightmare. But anyway, he wanted to have his name on it. And so the producer goes, oh, no, you're not going to. He goes, well, I'm paying for the session. And he says, no, you don't get your name on it. So what ended up happening was they fought back and forth. And finally, Frank Slay got fed up and just sent the copyright in with only John Carter and John Carter's songwriting partner, Tim Gilbert. So it said music and lyrics by those two, and Ed and Mark got nothing. Well, wow. The manager ended up feeling really bad, and instead of, and here's the album is at number 11, instead of taking a couple of other songs off the first album to release as a follow-up to Incense and Peppermints, he rushed us into the studio to record Tomorrow, months before we had the album done, and right after Incense was coming off the charts. So it was kind of a rushed thing. And then as it turned out, when, it was rushed, and so Ed wasn't happy with his guitar solo or the bass part. And so he had played bass on that one too. And so we go back into the studio and he re-records the bass part, re-records the guitar solo, the vocals get enhanced, the whole thing gets mixed better. And the album version on that Wake Up It's Tomorrow album, the Tomorrow is killer. It's great on that album. And it would have done, I think, much better on the radio than the version that ended up on the radio, the rushed version. And then they didn't pull any other songs off the hit album when they could have easily. And they used the songs that were from the first album for the flip side of singles off of that second album. There's a lot of weird stuff went on.
Stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
How did you form and develop and perfect the unique sound that Strawberry Alarm Clock has, George? How did that happen?
It's just the combination of musicians as the players, and every once in a while, like a group, especially a group that gets to go into the recording studio before they get to really have to do much else. You hear yourself really well, and you start crafting the material and the actual playing. You're hearing each other, whereas you don't necessarily, like a band that's rehearsing every day.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a rehearsal environment and you're not recording it, so you're not listening back. You don't know what everybody else is doing. You only know what you're doing. And so we were kind of like we had a blend of, because we knew what each other were doing, because a lot of what we were doing was in the studio, and we were experimenting in the studio. So it was different, and plus we were only 18, so we had no like like there's somebody like Tom Petty has a complete style, or Neil Young, say they have a complete style already done, by the time they pursued their careers. They were over 21, and so they were already locked into who they were. We were just wild kids and reckless abandon, but it paid off. It turned out kind of neat, and
Absolutely.
the same way. And now, so like tomorrow we go back in the recording studio and doing a bunch of stuff. We're having a blast doing that.
That's what's really cool, that you guys are still performing. You're still doing your thing. You're still out there. I think that's really fantastic. What's that like? You become like brothers, don't you? You become like family.
Very much so. It's a thing that you have that ties you together. The fact that there's the actual band right now, and that's actually years ago. That picture is 2007. And
so who's thinner and who's heavier today?
Well, we had to have those are the kind of clothes that we wore on the first album, and they're designed by the same lady.
Very cool.
And her name is Kathy Scarms, and I had actually found her on the internet, so those I got her to make new clothes, because of course the old ones didn't fit, except for Mark on the right hand side of the picture there.
Right.
He fit in his, and I think that what he's wearing is one of his original ones. But the rest of us, put on a little weight, and it comes and goes. Though we
sure
we shape up, and then other times we're like that, But anyway, so right now the band has 5 of the guys that were on the very first album, which is kind of like unusual for most groups. And that's Steve with his back to us.
Yeah.
He's a composer, film composer, and orchestrator, and he's Danny Elfman's orchestrator.
Oh yeah, sure.
He's done every single Danny Elfman movie.
Yeah.
And so he produces us and he plays with us, but sometimes he can't, and he's got we call it his day job, and so sometimes he can't. So that's why he's got his back to the picture there. But
That's
anyway,
funny. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, we're
That's
all best friends, you know. So it's like it is pretty cool.
okay. So
Yeah.
you guys
Well,
performing at Disneyland.
that's at Disneyland on the Tomorrowland stage.
That's
That
so
stage
cool.
it comes up from underground.
Right. Isn't that amazing? So you sort of
Yeah,
rise up.
it's like that. It looks like a little spaceship. That was cool.
And you were mentioning, I think it was recently, this was very recent, right? These shots here that we've
Yeah,
got.
yeah,
The
that's
Whiskey a Go-Go.
Kalenich. He's a poet. He
Oh, Steve, yes, he was a guest on our show. He's a big fan of our show, and he sent a lot of people
oh
our way too. He
yeah,
is tremendous, isn't he?
yeah, and he had a poem. We call it Galactic Symphony. I forget what he calls it, but and I had music that I had written uh, called Persian Skies, and we put the two things together. And now he opens all our shows, and we just, as a matter of fact, just recorded it in the studio. So we have a really nice studio version of him reciting his poem and us playing our piece behind him.
Mm, that's
So yeah,
cool.
that's all of us right there.
Isn't
At
that
the
great?
whiskey. Yeah.
That's really fantastic that you guys are still, I mean, you're still doing your thing, getting in the studio, recording, all of it, right?
That's the studio that we record in. That's Rock Cellar Studios in Chatsworth.
Mm. You know, so much music again that's out there from you guys. This one too, Strawberry Alarm Clock, The World in a Seashell. Tell us about this one.
So that was the third album.
Yeah.
That by that time we were having, this is when the manager that turned out to be a crook,
Mm-hmm.
it was starting to show through. Or maybe it showed through before and we were just too naive, but um, things started to come about, you know, shows that we never knew about that he had gotten deposits for and that we didn't show up at. And
Yeah.
that we were getting sued. It was like, what? You know,
Yeah.
and,
Right. And he has the deposits.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was gone. And he blew all the money. And we thought it was odd that he kept getting brand new Cadillacs and stuff. In those days, that's what you got. You bought a new Cadillac.
You got the new Cadillac.
You didn't,
Yes.
people weren't buying Mercedes and BMWs yet.
Yeah. Not really doing the European or Asian thing. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it was. You had either some base kind of Chevy or something, or if you had money, you had a Cadillac
You had a Cadillac. You were moving on up.
or a Lincoln.
Such great, right? Exactly. Such great covers too. All the different cover art on all these albums over the years too.
Yeah. Now that album, World in a Seashell. So they brought in some outside writers, and they brought in George Tipton to do orchestra stuff on some of the songs, and we were getting really bummed out. The record company told us that after our second album, that we were, our lyrics and everything was like too weird, and that we were going to lose our audience. And we thought, what do you mean? This is just us being us. Our audience that we had is, you know, our audience because they like what we do, whatever it is. But they wanted to control it, and we had no control over that. They had total control, creative control. And so they brought in, well, a couple of the songs I liked. Carole King, they brought in Carole King, and she wrote 2 songs for us, and those were nice. And then there was some other, Tony Stern, and was another. I think she wrote with Carole King, and I forget the other. There's another guy that he actually wrote one of Cher's big hits, and he wrote one of the songs on the album. But we were kind of, you know, bummed. You know, half the album sounds like just us, and the other half has the orchestra and has these other songs. The orchestra stuff was on the other songs,
Right.
you know. And then they brought in a lyricist because so Barefoot in Baltimore was written by a guy named Roy Freeman, and he was a comedy writer for Joey Bishop.
Joey Bishop, yes.
And so we liked him and everything, but it was they brought him in. He wrote a couple of the songs, "Sit with the Guru," "Barefoot" in Baltimore. He there was a couple of things that he wrote. And anyway, I'm seeing all these welcome signs down there.
Our lovely audience, yes.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
So anyway, and there's
our friend Toby's here as well. Absolutely. Full house of lovities here.
Oh, that's neat.
So that's an interesting story about the making of that particular one. Now, of course, Good Morning Starshine, would be remiss not to tip the hat to that. Tell us about how that came about.
I had quit the band just before Good Morning Starshine.
Yeah.
And what happened was the band had a meeting to fire the manager. And so after, when we were just about done with the third album. And so we had the meeting. We went we had our own office on Sunset Boulevard. And so we went down there and we were just about to fire him. And he goes, "Before you guys say anything, I just want you to know I have cancer and I only have 6 months to live."
Oh boy.
And so we're like, what? And the other guys in the band, there was Randy and I, who were from a different band, and originally, and then the guys, the other three guys, Ed and Mark and Lee, they said, "Oh, we can't fire him," because they had come from the bottom, up with him. And they said, "We can't fire him now. He's got cancer." I said, "I don't think he does." I said, and Randy goes, "I don't believe him either." And so Randy and I quit right then and there. We quit the band, and they were like, "Oh no!" And so we actually did it. I left, and Randy actually left about 2 weeks later, but we quit. And then it turned out that he didn't have cancer. He lied, and then they found out that we all knew that he was ripping us off, and then it got really bad, lawsuits, bankruptcies, and everything, and all hell broke loose. But it was a mess, and so they had to pick up the pieces, and that's when they got the fourth album came about. They brought in Jimmy Pittman, and they brought back Gene Gunnels, who had quit the band for his girlfriend back after he recorded the drum track for Incense and Peppermints. And then he was back in the band for the Good Morning Starshine album. And then the real bummer came about with, they were all ready to, put their album out, and it's called Good Morning Starshine. They did this great version of that song. And then Oliver comes out with the same song at the same time, like I think in the same week. And with his record company jumped all over it with promotion, whereas Universal kind of just let it hang off of the coattails of Incense and Peppermints. And Oliver was like a brand new guy, and so they jumped all over it. It didn't work out good at all. So their thing didn't. It charted, but it was like in number 87 or something like that. And I liked their version.
Yeah.
Mark, our keyboard player, likes Oliver's version better. He thinks that it's better, but I think the Alarm Clocks was better, but I wasn't even in it. I was already gone by that time.
You were already gone by that time, right? Yes. Got some more here too. Look at this one.
Yeah. Then when we got back together, we got back together in 2006. Oh, we had a bunch of interim. We called them interim sax, and so we had a yeah. And so and because we stayed playing all through the years and writing, and we were all friends. We never were not friendly with each other. Even when we quit, we didn't quit because of the guys in the band. We quit because of the manager. Anyway, the Wake Up Where You Are album came out in 2012. And that was a result of us writing new material and getting ready to play live. And so we wanted to hear what we sounded like. And our guitar player, Steve Bartek, has his own recording studio. So we went into his studio and rehearsed in there. And we started recording the old songs to see if we sounded the same. And we were all doing our vocals and everything. And it did. It sound. If you listen to that album, you'll hear that we sound just like ourselves. And so we thought, okay, this is good. This is great. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the harmony was real high. I had high parts. Ed King had high parts, and it was not the easiest task when you're older to go back to your 18-year-old harmony singing voice. It took some rehearsal. It took a lot. Anyway, we got it back, and we can do it.
Which is amazing to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want to lower the keys. That's what people do. They
yes, they do.
The keys of their hits, and then it doesn't sound the same. There's something wrong, and people don't quite get what it is. But
right,
they've lowered the key or whatever. But anyway, so that album had several songs that were from our first and second and third album. It has Barefoot in Baltimore. It has Tomorrow. It doesn't have Incense and Peppermints. It has like Strawberries Mean Love and a bunch of other ones, and Birds in My Tree. And so anyway, we had a couple of project songs that we recorded also. One, we were friends with Sky Saxon of the Seeds, and then he passed away, and his wife asked us to do a song for a tribute album that was going to be with Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins, and which he was a friend of ours at the time too. And so we recorded Mr. Farmer. We chose Mr. Farmer to do, and it's on that album, and it's also it's on this tribute album to Sky Saxon. And then we also there was a group called the Fuzz Tones out of Germany, and they had put out that they wanted us and other groups of the 60s to do their songs, the Fuzz Tone songs. So they sent us a song called Charlotte's Remains. All their songs are creepy, and Charlotte's Remains was, creepy.
Yeah.
And so we recorded it for their album. But we thought, well, we could put it on our album too. And then there was a song called World Citizen that was for a short film that actually was won some award for being a best short film. And it was about this guy, Gary Davis, who was a world citizen. He was a World War II fighter pilot. And anyway, he had come up with this passport that, gets you into any country. And it was a world citizen passport. Anyway, so we did that song, World Citizen. That's on that album. And then there was a couple of songs that we all had just written. So we put it out as an album. And then Steve Bartek had to rush off to go do a bunch of work with Danny Elfman and some other, he was producing somebody else. And he says, I have to bow out, you guys. I'm so sorry, but I have to bow out. And so he goes, but let's just mix this and put it out and the way it is. And so we thought, okay, then that's what we'll do. So it has old songs, new songs, and songs that were, project things. So it's an interesting album. That came out in 2012. And now we're doing a new one.
That's right, which is amazing too. We'll talk about it in a second. Here's Best Of too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the best stuff for those who are big collectors. And these are still out there, folks. You can still get all of them. Um, Changes was another one. Tell us about this.
That was after I left, but
Yeah.
I think it has a song or two on it that I wrote. Um,
Yeah.
but that album has that's basically it's talking about all the changes because it's got songs from each different lineup of the guys.
Right.
And Jimmy Pittman, who was the lead singer of like from the fourth album, he he was like a blues guitar player, blues singer, and at that point, the keyboard player, Mark Whites, was starting to play Hammond B3, and so they were going into this other thing. And Lee Freeman was also real bluesy, and Ed King too. Um, so they that album is kind of rock, a blues rock album. That fourth album, it's really different, and Changes is a lot like that album too. Then they had, they did a couple of recordings right after that, but not an album. But Mark quit the band, and then Paul Marshall got in the band, and they did the movie Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And Paul wrote, yeah, there's that, and that's Paul with the mustache in the middle there, and that's Ed King on the left and Lee Freeman on the right, and Gene Gunnels is playing drums. So that was that incarnation of the band, which is an interesting incarnation because they ended up going on tour, and their opening act was Lynyrd Skynyrd, and they really liked each other. Both bands got along, and they were all into the kind of rock and blues and Southern rock and all that stuff. And so at the end of I think they did 2 tours together. And at the end of it, Ronnie Van Zant said, if the alarm clock ever breaks up, give us a call, And so of course the alarm clock ended up breaking up. Like it was probably around 71 or something. And I think it was after, we had an earthquake here in 1971, the Sylmar quake, which was a huge earthquake. And Ed King said, I'm out of here. He goes, I'm never coming back to California. He was serious. And he didn't. He never came back, except for I saw him play a concert at the Irvine Meadows with Skynyrd when they reformed after the plane crash disaster. But anyway, what ended up happening was Ronnie Van Zant and Ed King hooked up there was some other guy that hooked them up, and after the alarm clock broke up. And so Ronnie Van Zant said, oh, great. He goes, our bass player just quit. He goes, would you want to play bass? And so he goes, sure, I'd love to play bass. So they said, well, come on, we have a deal. And he left. Leon Wilkerson had left the band. And so Ed goes and he plays bass and does the first Lynyrd Skynyrd album. He's the bass player. He played Freebird, and it was a hit. It was it started to take off. Well, the bass player wanted to come back. So that's when they said, okay, Ed, you're no longer the bass player. Leon's coming back in the band. And he thought he was out of a gig. And they said, no, we want you to play guitar. And so for the second album, he's the guitar player, and he co-wrote Sweet Home Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Plays those 2 solos on that song, and they're exquisite. Anyway, they also asked Gene Gunnels, our drummer, to be the drummer because their drummer was leaving also, Bob Burns. And I forget the reason for that, why he was leaving. Something was wrong. But anyway, they asked Gene, but Gene at the moment was playing drums for the Everly Brothers, and he was on tour with them. He did their European tour, and the Everly Brothers band was Warren Zevon and Waddy Wachtel on guitar, And so Gene was like, "Oh, I can't leave that." So Gene turned down the invite to Leonard Skinner. And he's also the one that quit, after recording the drum part for Incense and Peppermints. Sorry, Gene, but I love you, but those are two classic things.
That's sort of
rock and roll classic things, But
yeah.
they are. They're just like unbelievable. Well, Lee Freeman also went with Skinner, and his wife was designing their clothes, and he was doing their stage design and stage managing, and he was like the equipment manager kind of guy. And he played harmonica. There's videos of Lee Freeman playing harmonica with Leonard Skinner, and they're great. I mean, he's a great harmonica player. He passed away. Lee passed away on Valentine's Day in 2010 from cancer. And by the way, the manager that was supposed to die of cancer in 6 months, he just died last year. So he died last year.
Just hung on till last year. Yeah.
But so he didn't have cancer.
Yeah.
He didn't. That 6 months to live thing, and everybody fell for it, but whatever.
How did you yourself get started, George? Did you come from a family where there was a house filled with music? Were you, banging on pots and pans? And what were you doing as a kid? Tell us about those early years and forming your love of music, and specifically, of course, guitar and more.
Yeah. Okay. So nobody in my family directly, but when my parents decided to move I was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and we lived in Andover. And so
the accent, not there.
No, I was 3 years old when I
Chowder.
Yeah.
Red Sox.
All my cousins are back there, though.
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of New England family.
I have a slew of cousins, and anyway, my parents and my grandparents, my dad had come to, I think, Long Beach when he was in the Navy, and he goes, "We're moving to California." Anyway, that's what they did. They packed up and loaded up the car. And
who else was from Lawrence, Massachusetts? A little bit of a different style, but legend. Robert Goulet.
Robert
Goulet. And I think also in that area, Betty Davis, too, the actress, of course, legend from that area. Something in the water in Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Like Brooklyn, New York.
And, it's funny. After I was born, we actually lived in North Andover, and my mom goes, because I was doing the Harley Davidson Love Ride, and Jay Leno was the MC. And so my mom goes, "You tell Jay that you're from Andover." And so I went, okay. So I got together with him there at the thing, and I said, "My mom said to tell you that I'm from Andover." And he goes, "No kidding, I didn't know you were from there."
That's a great impression.
It was great. As a matter of fact, somewhere he's up there. Let's see. Oh, this is
while you're there, tell us about the beautiful room you're in too.
This is my little music cave. Now let's see. So anyway, I'm trying to get the reflection to stop.
Yes, tell us.
Staying with my wife and me.
What year do you think that was, George?
Oh, let's see. He has dark hair. So do I. Yeah, this is a while ago. My wife looks identical to this.
Would you say 80s, maybe?
Yeah, probably the 80s.
80s, later 80s, maybe.
80s, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
Yeah, we did a lot of those with him, and some of them he does have gray hair. But
tell us about all these other goodies you have on the wall and instruments. It's nice little shrine there.
There's a lot of basses and some really cool guitars, and a ukulele is over there, and a keyboard. It's kind of it's a man cave, but a man that is a musician. So it's a musician cave. Anyway,
When did the bass become really your instrument of choice? And was
early
that the first instrument you learned, or did you learn on the piano or violin or something else?
violin.
Violin, me too. Yeah.
So here's what happened. We moved to California. I was 3 years old, and so we didn't have anywhere to go except for my grand aunt and granduncle. They had a little Italian restaurant, and behind it they had their house, and a couple of their kids still lived with them, and two of them, they were like my cousins, but they were like, I guess, the not first cousins, but whatever, first cousins once removed, I think is how you
Yeah.
say.
So like a second cousin or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. And so anyway, they had a band, and I'm 3 years old, and we moved into their house, temporarily, and until we found our own place. And my one cousin played Hammond organ, and the other one played electric guitar, and they had a band. They had some other guy that played drums, and they had a couple of guys that played horns and stuff. And I sat as a 3-year-old watching them rehearse in the house, and I was just like, it was amazing, sitting in the middle of the living room with the live music. Oh, that had to have done it for me. But then we finally moved into a house, and then my grand aunt, my grandparents they bought a store right away, and my grand aunt and grand uncle were taking care of me. So my grand aunt took me to all these things with my cousins. They were dance lessons, acting lessons, vocal lessons, all kinds of things that they were doing, and their music things. She was a total showbiz mom, and by that time I was 4, and so I was still totally into all this stuff. And my cousin was acting. He was in East of Eden, and he was on an episode of Lassie where he had a guest star role. And
What's his name?
Raymond Geruso,
Wow.
and he has an IMDb thing. He's gone now, but he had a child acting.
Quite a yeah.
He had it going, and then so my cousin that played the Hammond, he also played accordion because we're Italian. And so what ended up happening was I said I wanted to learn music. They said, okay, well, you're going to play accordion. And I went, okay. So I got an accordion, and I didn't. And then it was like lugging it around. But by that time, I was already in elementary school. And so
your mom's a talented artist too, right?
she's a painter. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, she was really good. Yeah.
And the place you stayed at in Virginia, Norfolk, when your dad was stationed in Virginia, had a piano.
Yes.
And you were only 2
on our way out to California.
in Norfolk.
We were in Norfolk.
And they couldn't keep you away.
Right.
Like age 2 or 3, they couldn't keep you away from that instrument, huh?
Right. The piano, I loved it,
Yeah.
And she even
2 years old. Yeah.
She gave my mom some of the music that I liked, the sheet music.
Yeah.
To take with us to California, which I think I actually might have somewhere. But
and this point of moving from the East Coast to the West Coast happened at around 1952 with your parents and grandparents all deciding to move together to go to California.
Yeah.
Looking for gold.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, it was.
And you drove they drove the 1947 Chevy Coupe, and it was a wild ride. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was really cuckoo. My grandfather, is old country and barely spoke English, and my dad was pushed. Come on, you got to learn how to drive. You got to learn how to drive, and you got to get a driver's license. In California, everything is you have to have a car. And he's like, Okay, so we're in the middle of the desert, and he puts my grandfather behind the wheel, and my grandfather's driving along, and he freezes. His foot freezes on the accelerator, and he just and his hands are on the steering wheel. He can't steer or anything. He's like frozen, and he went right off the road into the desert. And luckily, it was like a hard part of it, and so
Yeah.
it didn't
Not
get
like a dune.
yeah, but it was pretty weird. And my mom's like, ah, it's like,
Yeah.
and, oh god,
Very dramatic.
it was pretty funny.
You sure that wasn't like an I Love Lucy episode or
Oh
something? Yeah.
yeah, it was
Sure
like
sounds like it.
yeah,
California, here we come.
yeah. Oh man, yeah. And, it was that old '47 Chevy. It was that green, minty kind of green that they had, and it had the burlap water bag on the front to keep the radiator cool. And it had one of those window little air conditioner jobs.
Right.
It,
You made
most
do
people don't
with what
even
you
know what I'm talking about with those two things.
Yeah. Well, you had a place also to stay, as you're saying, it's grandfather's
Yeah,
brother, Pete, that had that
yes,
Italian deli and cafe
yeah,
in North Hollywood, and they lived behind it, and they would allow, you guys to move in, which is great. And, yeah, and then your grand aunt and uncle had 2 of their 4 kids still at home, Gino and Raymond, as you mentioned,
yeah,
and they had a band as well. Yeah.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
who that band. Yeah,
And of course, in the living room, an organ, electric guitar, and a drum set. You were in awe.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I was beside myself.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
and then it wasn't until so then I decided I didn't like carrying the accordion around to school
Yeah,
for yeah, and
right.
so then um, they said, "Well, violin, take violin," and because I liked fiddle, I liked my grandmother always was listening to country music and the fiddle, and so I wanted to play, and so I took violin lessons, but they don't teach you anything like that. All you have to learn how to read music, and you have to learn how to play the Christmas show at school and the Easter.
Yeah, I took it, but it was a little later. It was around 7th grade, so I think was that 12, 13 when I took violin. Yeah, my aunt from Austria up in Massachusetts over towards Fitchburg, that
Oh, wow.
area there, beautiful piano in their dining room. When I was a kid, we'd always go up to, their house, my mother's brother, Fred, and my aunt Doreen. Everybody would be doing their thing. I would be in that dining room just by ear playing that piano. And again, one of those things, okay, we're going to eat now. You got to like give up. We got to go eat now. You know what I mean? Like you just get addicted. You didn't want to stop. And of course, the first thing you play, Heart and Soul, do, do,
Yeah.
do, do. And then the theme to All in the Family. Da na 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 na.
Yeah,
As
that's
you're
a good
toying
one.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, and they still have that piano there in the house in Massachusetts to this day, which is beautiful, which was brought over from Vienna, from
Oh,
Austria.
goodness.
Yeah, which was really something quite special, in the family and, near and dear to everybody. Now, your grandaunt was a showbiz mom, huh? She had the boys' days, they were occupied with dance, music, and acting lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Mm,
had broken my arm. So that was, I had been in like, what do you call it? Preschool. And,
mhm.
but then I broke my arm. Um, and
How'd
so
that happen? Did you throw the Frisbee too aggressively?
better than that, they had a train, a little small train that was in the playground of the nursery school, and the place was called Robin Air Nursery School in North Hollywood, and they had this little train, and I was like the engineer sitting in it, and there was this guy or teacher, whatever, pushing it from behind, so because it wasn't motorized. So they're pushing it from behind, and then some kid came up, and I'm playing like the whistle thing, and some kid came up from the other side and shoved the train over, and off the track, and it went on top of my arm and broke it, just like that. And so my mom pulled me out of the nursery school and said, "You're not going to go there anymore," or preschool, whatever you call it. And so but my mom worked at Lockheed, and so did my dad.
Yes.
And so they said, "You're going to have to stay with, your Aunt Suzie," they called her.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. And
you guys were right next to is it Nudi's Rodeo Taylor's?
That was my grandmother and grandfather's store. And so then when they got their store, then I had to be at their store all the time.
And they were taking you to dance and music lessons and
Yeah.
to the store, which provided
Yeah.
a lot of entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the clients that were coming in to that shop were the
Nudies.
who's who of country and Western music, TV shows, Western movies. That's cool.
That's why I wanted to play fiddle. There was some guy that was one of their friends because they used to jam there.
Right.
And Nudies ended up moving over to like Lancashire, but in the beginning it was at Vineland and I think Van Owen, and it was a hangout. It was Roy Rogers and all kinds of people. There's a funny end to a full circle thing to the Nudie thing. We were one of my grandmother's favorite TV shows at the time was called Doyle Dell's Town Hall Party.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to sit and watch it with her. She loved country Western music. And anyway, later in life, in like 1977 or 78, I was in the house band at the Landmark in Glendale. And they would have different artists come through that we would back up or open for, depending. Some of them we backed up. And in this case, I was playing bass and our drummer was playing drums and our guitar player played guitar. And it was Doyle Dell came in with his town hall party. And lo and behold, he had Nudie with him. And Nudie was going to play mandolin. He did play. I got to play bass behind him. And I told him, I said, do you remember the Geruso store? He goes, of course, I remember the Geruso store. And he goes, don't tell me. And I said, yeah, I'm little Georgie. And he goes, oh my God. And his daughter was there who used to be, she was my age and she used to run around in my grandparents' store. And we used to both run around in Nudies. And so it was so cute. He goes, Roberta, come over here quick. This is little Georgia that you used to play with in the 50s. So it was a full circle moment. It was pretty great.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
It's incredible. And like you say, that's why you wanted to play the fiddle is because of all of this as well.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's, you also joined the chorus and glee club and the choir. That was okay, but not too fulfilling.
Right. It didn't have, I think what I really wanted was to be one of the players I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So I like a neighborhood kid had a guitar.
Right around 12, you started tinkering with the neighborhood guitar and learned songs,
Right.
surf songs. Around 61.
And I would just play the bass parts.
Right.
On the acoustic guitar.
And then around 63, you moved to Woodland Hills, right next door to the Bartek family.
Yeah.
Your true musical ambitions came to fruition then. What was it about, next door to the Bartek family, that time moving to Woodland Hills, where all of this ambition started to really come to fruition for you, George?
It was like almost immediate. The Barteks, they were, it's the mom and dad became my mom and dad's best friends. And then I became Steve and his brother, Jim, we became best friends. And his brother played guitar and Steve played flute. And I was just starting to take bass lessons. And so we started to play together. And there was another neighborhood kid that had played drums. And so we had our little, just a little combo band. And we just did instrumentals because we had a flute player. We had Steve could do all these whatever we were doing. And Jimmy was learning, his brother Jim was learning all the jazz chords and stuff, and I was learning walking bass parts. And so we were playing little jazz things, and we didn't really get to go anywhere with it, but that was the beginning of it. And then Steve and I just started to write songs together every day.
Mhm.
We lived right next door to each other.
He's
So
about 2.5 years younger than you, right?
yeah,
But he was also an accomplished flute player.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
full on. He was already doing recitals and whatnot.
And then that's around the time you discovered you really like playing the bass parts. And then
Yeah,
your parents got you lessons at
yeah,
Wallach's Music City.
yeah, Wallach's. Yeah,
And then Jim started taking guitar lessons, and another neighbor, Ron, took the drum lessons, and you
yeah,
had your first band. You played old jazz standards, like you said, no
that's
vocals, all instrumental.
yeah,
Yeah. And then started r- writing songs.
yeah.
You and Steve started writing songs,
It
sort
was
of
just
making them up.
making them up.
Yeah. Do you
Uh,
remember the title of any of the early back then?
well, a lot of them ended up on the first Strawberry Alarm Clock album. So that's
Yeah.
where Rainy Day
Isn't that
Mushroom.
amazing?
Yeah, Rainy Day Mushroom Pillow was. So he and I we used to pull out the dictionary and the encyclopedia and look up things. And so one of the things we were playing around with was rainforests. And it said, if you get lost in a rainforest, you could eat mushrooms. You have to find the right mushrooms to eat. And in the article or thing in the encyclopedia we were looking at, it said, showed you pictures of the correct mushrooms to what to look out for.
Yes.
And so we
All mushrooms are not created equal.
no, and so we started writing this thing about poison mushrooms, and so that's what Rainy Day Mushroom Pillow is about. Because it's a rainy day, it's like in a rainforest, and it was finding mushrooms, and it said poison dreams, distorted dreams, mushroom dreams. So that's where that song came from. It had nothing to do with drugs, which
Right.
but it ended up on the
People
Incense.
probably assumed that it did. 'Cause they didn't know the backstory that you just shared with us.
They thought we knew something. They went, "Wow, magic mushrooms,"
Right.
But no.
It was a lot more innocent than that, folks.
Yeah, and then there was another song, Paxton's Backstreet Carnival. There was a street on the 405 freeway called Paxton, and there was an exit. But what the carnival part of it was from a Twilight Zone episode called Next Stop Willoughby.
Oh, Willoughby. Yes, the guy on the train who keeps going back. And
exactly, and that's so the song, the lyrics are like, your mind is swirling down, and it's all about this carnival. It's called Paxton's Backstreet Carnival, and anyway, that's where that came from. And
isn't it amazing the inspiration that
yes,
comes from just living life sometimes, and it turns into music?
yeah, yeah. All of our songs like that. We just kept writing about things that were in our head.
Were happening, at the time in your life, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, and to share them in musical form. So what happened from there? I mean, as time was accelerating, and connections are being made, what was next for all of this?
Well, you mean before we got into the alarm clock?
Yeah.
We started having then we started to want to rock, because the Beatles and everybody else had come out, and they were establishing what an actual rock band makeup is. We were okay, now we got to have this and this and this, and then I remember we were telling us, okay, Steve, you can't play the flute anymore, you're going to have to play harmonica.
Yeah.
And then until one day he came in with his brother's guitar and played us a perfect version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow with all the little moving parts. And his brother and I just looked at each other and went, what? We didn't even know he could play guitar. And so now he's a legendary guitar player. Now he's something else. But yeah, that was the first time when we saw that it lit us up. We were like, wow, that is something.
Did
But
you hear
anyway,
that Jeff Beck passed away?
yes, that's
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, meningitis.
Another, yeah, talented, yeah.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, they were just talking about that today. Absolutely. Yeah, another great talent and legendary person. So you were saying before alarm clock, and again, the name too, still, I think it's so cool. Strawberry Alarm Clock. Did you mention how it started, how the name came about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's largely from Mark White and
Yeah.
the record company said, because the band was called the Sixpence,
Right.
and they said there's a bunch of bands called the Sixpence and names that are similar, so you got to get rid of that and find something. And so the band had a meeting at Mark's parents' house and threw out ideas. And Mark and we used to all rehearse at his parents' house. They had a guest house that he lived in, and so we used to rehearse there. And then Mark had a Big Ben alarm clock, but it made a scratch sound. The second hand would go around, and every once in a while, every second or every 30 seconds or whatever it was, it would make a scratch sound. And anyway, when they were throwing, Mark originally wanted to use strawberry in the name because of strawberry fields, and so
Right.
thought that was good and psychedelic. So then all of a sudden, it got quiet, and they heard the alarm clock,
That's right.
Big Ben alarm clock making that sound, and they went strawberry alarm clock. Called the record company, and the record company said, "Oh my God, that's genius."
That's it.
And the first thing they said was, "How did you come up with that?"
Is your dog scratching at the door to eat? Is he barking because he wants to
Well,
eat?
that's the next door neighbor's dog.
That's the next door neighbor's dog?
Yeah, and that's because they go out to dinner, and as soon as they leave, their dogs start barking.
Starts.
It's like clockwork. So I know they just left for dinner.
That, that is amazing.
My wife got home just a few minutes ago, so she's feeding our dog. So he's happy and quiet.
What's it like still, being together all these years? We're talking decades of music and friendship and creativity. You being a bassist, singer, songwriter. Do you have are you the musician first and then the singer, then the songwriter, or all of the above? What comes first for your heart, George?
Well, a bass player is probably the first thing, and then songwriter, and then singer is last. Because I sing, but I'm not the main singer by any
Right.
stretch. And but I sing a lot of harmony. Like all these pictures, I might be singing lead on a couple of things here.
Right.
I can sing. Yeah, it's just that I'm not like, Bruce Springsteen or anything. Now there's so that picture there is unique. Those are the only musicians that played. Oh no, that's not even the right picture. I'm thinking of another one with Gene Gunnels in it. But anyway, that's Lee Freeman shortly before he passed away, and Ed King and Mark White's is in the middle. And yeah, that brings back memory. And that's Howie. He's our new guy, Howie Anderson. He's been in the band since 1986. Oh, and that's Vinny. That's Vince Martell. He's a friend. We've known him for a long time.
On the road. What's it like touring and all?
Oh, that's fun. That there is in Brooklyn. We were doing a cave stomp. Yeah, Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was 2007.
That is cool.
Yeah.
It's a great shot of you doing your thing here too.
Yeah, earbuds. I was trying to get used to using them.
It's a whole different thing, isn't it? It's completely no, you don't have the big headphones anymore. And
yeah.
But you guys play a lot of different events and fests and things, right? And you go to, how like they have comic cons and all that. You go to a lot of these sort of convention type music conventions as well. Yeah. to greet the fans and make new fans too, right? Because there's people
Oh,
who are
they're young.
rediscovering or discovering for the first time. There's the
Yeah.
Love In tour, the group and the music. I just was at a concert because he was a guest on our show, and he requested that I come to see him perform and the group perform. And you'll know who I'm talking about within 6 seconds. Of course, Felix from the Rascals.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. And they put on a great show too. They
Oh,
just knocked it out of the park. Felix
great.
Cavalieri. Yeah. And he was a guest on the show as well. And, it's just great. It's introducing it to new generations as well. I'm sure you hear that. You get feedback from
Oh, yeah.
folks of all ages, right?
Basically, every time we play at the Whiskey, there's hardly anybody that looks like us. They're all kids dressed like we used to dress in the 60s. So it's kind of like amazing. It's like a time capsule thing, going back in time.
It really is, right? And
Yeah.
they're all
All
on
those
their
kids in
feet.
the front, all those people in the front row watching us, they know all the lyrics to all the songs, and they're all young. They're all in their 20s. It's great.
It is because they like good stuff. They got a good ear, and they like good stuff. And there's Steve as well, and it's a
Yeah.
great shot.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's see. That is I think that's it's a rehearsal studio. Oh no, that's Mark White's house, I think. Yeah, because he's got his gold album on the wall. That's Mark's house, and we used to rehearse there for quite a bit. But that's all of us right there.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, Randy's still got the vibes and everything.
The whole bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we do the whole thing.
This is cool too. Somebody did this for you guys. We pulled it up because we thought it was so cool.
Oh yeah,
Isn't that nice?
yeah. That was somebody from uni. Yeah, the guy's
Really?
name is on there, but I can't quite see what it says.
Yeah, you can see it if you sort of focus in right. But that's so cool. This too, Sundazed.
Sundays. Yeah,
Tell us about that.
they did a reissue, and they put out a vinyl. They put a bunch of them. It's like,
Look how cool that vinyl
yeah,
looks.
this is probably like that, and this one, that's the same thing. And then there's this one. These are still in the wrapper. And they also did the Incense and Peppermints album. This is the best of. But yeah, pretty cool.
Vinyl has made that slow but sure comeback, huh? Isn't that nice to see?
Yeah, yeah. I think that our new stuff, we're going to have to do a vinyl pressing of it. Although we don't know how we're releasing it or anything. We don't have a record company or anybody. We don't have a manager. We don't have an agent, and we don't have a record company.
It's just you guys doing it.
That's, yeah. And we don't do anything to make it happen hardly, except for go in the studio and write and record and then play shows. But those shows, like the Whiskey, they usually contact us, and you guys ready to come back?
Right.
We do like 2 a year there.
We got a little clip here of you guys performing. Hopefully we'll be able to air it. I don't know if we'll get any sort of copyright claim or something. Sometimes with certain music that happens, but we can give it a shot here, and you guys playing, and then we could chat a little bit about it after we see it. But here it is, gang, and George Bunnell is our special guest, legendary bassist, singer, songwriter from Strawberry Alarm Clock. Before we show this, do you do solo work too? Do you do a lot of solo? Are you ever brought in as a session musician? Any of that stuff as well?
I play with another band called The Tribe, and it's a big conglomerate kind of a band. And The Tribe has, I don't know, sometimes even on stage, we've been on stage with 15 people, but we're all friends, and we do benefit type shows. And Some of the time, it's our band, it's Strawberry Alarm Clock doing a show with the Tribe. And then other times I just go and play bass with the Tribe. Like I did in December, I just played their Christmas show. They do a Christmas show every year. And they do shows. We played in April, a concert with the Tribe. But that was with us as the Alarm Clock and the Tribe as the Tribe. And but they have all these great musicians that play with them. Mickey Dolenz. It was
People
in the
know
Christmas
from the Monkees, of course. Yeah.
Christmas show with us, and that was cool. That was a nice show. It was really nice. We did like 2 shows.
You know, something that I learned through my work, working in television, radio, and we've had conversations on the show about jingles, and we've had jingle singers on the show, and we've had session musicians, and somebody I know who owned a company called Klein and, which was a marketing and branding company that would create the TV promos and imaging campaigns for radio stations and TV stations of the day. And he was telling me about the background singers that were used on many of the music of the day during that particular time period, like the background singers that were used on the Monkees and the Partridge Family, and even at times were the Ray Conniff singers. And that's the session group, the Ron Hicklin singers. You've probably heard of them, right?
Yeah.
Incredible, huh?
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, what's funny is with us, well, we did all our own vocals and all our own playing. And we were doing it at a time when the Wrecking Crew and all those background singers were like in full force. And the record companies were pretty much insisting that they were like, because they're paying for studio time and they want the pros to come in there and knock it out right away. Well, we happen to have been pretty good at it. And I guess we just didn't have any mental blocks or anything. We just went out and did it. And we had a vocal coach. And so his name was Howard Davis. And so he used to, and he was like a lounge guy, but he was a really great musician, piano player. And he could give us all our parts, and he was really great, worked with us so nicely. And we got all our parts, and our harmonies are intricate. They're ridiculous, actually, when you go back to learn them. It's like, whoa. Anyway, that was all our, we didn't have any help from anybody. No studio musicians, no vocalists, nothing. It was all us.
That's incredible, huh?
Yeah, it was, especially during the time. We kind of knew, because we would see like the trap case of Gene Estes, in the studio. So it was like his drum trap case was sitting there, like it was always there. And because he would come in and do sessions for different artists all the time. And then I did see him with Sonny Bono one time at the TTG studio. And it was fun recording at TTG. The other studio was called Original Sound, and that was Art LeBeau's, and it was where he did his show from.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, he had his radio program out of there. It was also Kama Sutra, the same little building. It was neat there. I used to really enjoy that studio.
All great memories we're sharing here on the Jim Master Show. Gang, if this is your first time watching our Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series and you're enjoying it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Give us a thumbs up, like, and leave a comment for us. We would really love that. Here is that clip of the guys doing their thing, and then we'll be back with our special guest, George Bunnell, here on the Jim Masters Show. Really nice, really nice. And what I love is when our guests are listening to cuts like that, they're moving around, and you're taking it back a little bit there, huh? You
Yeah.
guys still sound so great together today.
Oh, thanks.
Where was that from?
That's the whiskey.
It is from that.
That was just in December.
So that's the one from December.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. It's like nobody ever stopped. You know what I mean? It's what's that feeling like? I mean, it just really must be like a go-to place, like a Zen place. There's a lot of work and everything to it all. You don't just wake
Yeah.
up and there it is, but it's just got to be like after all these years and decades in the music industry and doing what you love and sharing it with the world, and with the group and sort of the camaraderie and all of it, the teamwork, everything that goes into it all. It must be a cool Zen feeling. When you're younger, when everybody's younger, we're hungry and we feel like we've got to be everywhere. We've got to do everything. We've got to do it quickly. We've got to be successful. We've got to make the money. We've got to get the career on track. We've got to all this worry and stress and all these things happen and people leave, come and go. And now you're at a point where obviously you've earned the respect of so many over decades. It's an iconic group. You're an iconic figure in the music industry. And you can sort of really soak it in and enjoy it when you guys are together. Not that you didn't enjoy it in the early years, of course you did, but there's just something, there's a peace to it now, like a contentment now, when you're playing and performing. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's real noticeable when we're in a recording studio and we're with bouncing ideas off of each other, and while we're playing, we can look at each other and enjoy what each other is doing. It is there's definitely a Zen thing about it. There's something that first of all, we have a tie. We're all tied together from something remarkable that happened when we were children, basically. And because most of us, like I was 18, but some of the other guys were only.
Was that the horn player showing up?
Yeah. Mark, the keyboard player, he's
So like a trombone or something.
but yeah, the when we play together, it's like going back up to here. Here's a good example of what it's like. So when we were rehearsing at Steve Bartek's place, we were all we were doing the old songs, and so we were locked in a room and with no windows, and so we're like playing together, and it's just like, and if you have your eyes closed, you're back when you're like 18 years old. Some of the guys weren't even 18 yet back then, and so so nowadays we'll be doing that, and then we'll take a break, and walk, and what ends up happening is you end up walking by a mirror and you see it, and you go, whoa,
What has happened?
what happened? I was just in
That's like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah. That's kind of what happens. It's like, you get, when you're in the throes of playing, you just sort of lose yourself, and then until you open your eyes and you see each other,
Reality sort of hits.
hell, what happened?
Tell us about some of the cool things that you have, new year, new excitement that you guys have coming up. You mentioned more music is coming out, right?
Yeah, that's what we're up to. We're recording some fun songs that we've had that we never recorded, and they're a couple of them are new, but there's some funny ideas that we have. One of them is an instrumental of Day Tripper by the Beatles.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, and we've been toying with it forever, and we finally got it to to where we like it, where it's a thing. And
Right.
um, so now we've recorded it. I was hoping to have something done to play it for you here, but it's not quite in
To
its.
where you want it to be, right?
Well, it's still. I don't want to release it yet. That's all. But
Yeah.
I will send you.
Yes, we can't wait to hear that. Yeah. How about touring too? Some more of that happening?
Well, we're in talks with people, and so I don't know how that's going to materialize. What the reason for us not doing anything, of course, has been the COVID thing,
Yeah.
and so that put a damper on everything.
That
And
just totally.
oh, it's crazy. And then like Steve Bartek, his work is governed by the film studios, and he's doing all this film work, and they have to get tested all the time, and
Constantly, yeah.
yeah, and so he has to be careful, and people are still testing positive. Even when we were doing our Christmas show, I was supposed to just play a couple of the songs, and then one of the other bass players who was supposed to do a bunch of them, he tested positive. He had minor,
Still out there, yeah.
but he tested positive, so he couldn't even do the show. And so I had to learn all the songs for his songs, and which was fun. I had a blast playing. It was just me being a bass player, which I love doing that, and having to kind of read the charts and stuff, that's fun too.
Yeah.
Although I'm no good at it, but so for me it's like it's concentration thing, and I start playing a lot, which is,
Yeah.
and that's something that keeps us all going. Is like, for me, my calluses, I can't stop playing, otherwise I'll have raw fingers. I have to keep going. I have to keep the finger, because I play bass with my fingers, and I have to keep them, the calluses hard. That actually, when they're hard, it's not a good thing. That means that you haven't been practicing a little bit. But because what ends up, if you practice a lot, it gets soft. They get soft. But
So there you go, folks. That's something that I bet none of you knew. He's continuing to play, not only because he loves it and he's a seasoned veteran, but he's got to keep those calluses under control. You learned that here on the Jim Masters Show.
like horn players, they have all the horn players. They have, they're amateur, and they can't like take a break from it, because their lip will fall off.
It's like fine tuning, pun intended, the instrument, which, as much as the instrument is the instrument, you are as well a part of it. Yeah.
To be in it. Yeah, especially bass is fun. You're like, you've climbed inside of something.
Yes, very much so.
It's amplified and it's all around you. It's like you get to feel it first before everybody else does.
Yes.
And then you're really working on getting it to, thump.
Yes. This was a special moment.
Yeah. That was receiving the Incense and Peppermints gold record from Uni Records.
What was that moment like? That had to be like pinch me stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That was, and that's the crooked manager on the left there.
The one that has his hand right on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's amazing. But again, a really important time in the group's history. Look at this shot from 1968.
Yeah, and you see who that is?
Got everybody in there.
It's Melvin Belli.
Yes.
Yeah, we got busted. We got framed. We were in Peoria, Illinois, and they framed us and said that, they came into the room and said, "This pot is yours." And it was like they pulled it out from underneath a desk.
And so Belli was your attorney representing you?
He showed up and bailed us out of jail. And that crooked manager is the one who had Belli come, and he turned it into a publicity stunt. So then this picture, we had to, after we got out and everything, then he had us, we went to his office in San Francisco, and that's where that picture was taken.
That's amazing, huh?
Oh yeah.
framed like that. Cool
I
shot.
don't know who that disc jockey is, but or not disc jockey,
Yeah.
TV show
The
host.
host. Yeah.
And I think it was in Ohio or somewhere. I'm not sure.
That's a cool shot. So is this one.
Yeah, that's Universal Studios, and that there is Griffith Park. Oh no, that's Washington.
That's Washington. That's when you guys were in DC, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Which was really fantastic.
yeah, that's I think Mickey Shapiro telling us something that we don't want to hear.
Yeah. And this is
You can see our faces are pretty.
right 1968 University of Utah.
Oh yeah, that's me playing percussion in the middle. That actually is with the other bass player still playing bass.
It's a cool shot too.
You know, this is after I left the band, and that's let's see, the blonde guy is Marty Caden, who is an artist actually, a
Mhm.
artist.
Yeah.
But he was only in the band for a short time,
Yeah.
and that's Jimmy Pittman is the second from the right, and the other guys are Lee and Ed King and Mark Whites. Yeah, that's let's see, that might be Griffith Park.
That
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
looks
That's Griffith Park because we have those umbrellas. We were doing the Jonathan Winters show.
Jonathan Winters. Oh boy. Was
Yeah.
he not amazing?
Oh,
Uh,
he was great.
what was it like working with him?
Oh, he
Did you have interaction with him?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, somewhere there's pictures of us with him too.
Jonathan Winters. Wow. He was iconic. You see him on, they have, well, you can order him on DVD and everything else, but on YouTube and all the Dean Martin roasts from back then. God, so hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great.
Just hilarious stuff.
Yeah, this is the Self-Realization Center in Hollywood.
That's a cool one too. So's this.
That and that there is Griffith Park again, doing the filming of the Jonathan Winters. That's after I left. That's the album cover of the fourth album.
Of the fourth album.
Yeah, that's the photo that they used.
Yeah, and this was.
That's got Marty Caden, that blonde guy. He was on, and they did a lot of photos with him, but he was on. He didn't record anything.
Short period of time. Yeah.
In for like a month or something, it seemed like. That there is when we were doing a video of World Citizen.
Yeah, that's a great one. When you look at all this, I mean, there's obviously music's in your blood. You've been doing it for a long time, all the way back to, I think, 2, when in Virginia you were toying with that piano in Norfolk.
Yeah.
Goes all the way back to 2. What are some of the, the joys and blessings in your life that continue you, besides the calluses, which might not be blessings and joys, but that continue you wanting to continue to perform for the good of all of us, entertaining all of us?
I don't know. We would have always played for free. And I think that's all it is. It's we were never trying to make money. When we never wrote songs to try to make money. We weren't ever trying to write hits. And I knew a lot of people that wrote by the book, like on how to write a song.
Yeah, right.
We just didn't really care about that. We just were trying. We were having fun. We wanted to play music and hear ourselves play music and what things sounded like together. And we've tried all different sorts of things. And a lot of it experimental. But I think what it kept us in the game, kind of, it kept us playing our whole lives. We never stopped ever. That's what's good, because we can go out and do a show at any given time.
Somebody who must be maybe in the name George, somebody else that kept going and going and going and entertaining. I just wanted to stop by. Usually stops by to the latter part and just wants to say hello. Mr. George Burns is with us from one George to the next. He's here with his cigar and his red pocket square. My aunt collected dolls, as I tell everybody on the show. She's a big collector of all kinds of very precious dolls, spent thousands and thousands on them. And this got passed down to me, and he pops in usually as well. He's thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and from one icon to the next, he sends all his best from him and from Gracie up above to you. And people get a kick out of it when all of a sudden they see a George Burns pop up.
Yeah, I love it.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, or doll.
Yeah, it is. He's actually on a pedestal, and
nice.
he's got his dress shoes too. See, he's got the dress shoes there, and yeah, he's the whole thing all the way around. And I'm always afraid one day I'm gonna have I'm a lefty, and he's over here, and I'm always afraid one day I'm just gonna express myself, and boom, hear a crash, and that can't happen. But he always pops in as well. And this was fantastic. This was really great. And your patient pup outside the other door there waiting to eat. Wow.
Yeah. Well, no, he ate. Yeah.
Oh, he ate.
My wife
she took care of it already?
Yeah.
That is fine. Yeah. Uniclaire is watching in the Philippines. She's one of our regulars, and she said passion. That's exactly what it is. It's the passion for what you have and doing it. Kathleen's in New York City. George, thank you for being here and sharing your life with us. Great conversation. Yeah, she absolutely loved it as well. And Merlin in Canada says, thanks, George, for bringing back some good memories. You're now a lovety. Yeah, I say there's Oscars, Emmys, Tonys, Grammys, Peabodys, and Telly Awards and Clios and all these other awards. But when you get designated a lovety on the Jim Masters show, how does it make you feel? Most people say their feet tingle.
Yeah.
One guy said he was levitating as a result.
I'm feeling levity.
That's what it is. It's a word that would have worked well during the time when the group was formed as well, I would tell you. Veronica Lee says fantastic and thank you. And she's watching in Australia as well. And Brian, Nayland, hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for this wonderful interview. You are very, very welcome. And that's why we don't even say interview, we say conversations. That's what they really are. Conversations. And
that's what it was.
Jane watching in Sweden and Maureen in Arizona took me back to some good old days. And thank you. Sherry Larson says, nice, sending you some purple hearts, which is kind of cool. Really nice stuff from everybody here. Austin Fields watching, saying another wonderful show. Subscribe for a great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Everyone should subscribe. Yes, and everybody watching, we appreciate all of you and all the great comments. Maureen adds here, fabulous conversation. Thank you both for making my Wednesday brighter. You're very, very welcome. George, did you ever think that, that the career and being in music and that the group would last this long when you look back at it all?
Not exactly, no. I never thought I would ever stop playing music. But at some point, I think it was in, what was the first time? Well, it was somewhere around in the 80s. And somebody asked, I know what it was. It was 1982. And there was a club here. And they said, they advertised that the Strawberry Alarm Clock was coming. And I saw it, and I was with one of our other guys, Lee Freeman. And we said, Lee goes, let's call the guy. Because we weren't going to play there. We wanted to know who was there, who was going to use our name. And so we called the guy, and he goes, we said, we see that you have the Strawberry Alarm Clock coming. He goes, yeah. And he goes, well, we're the Strawberry Alarm Clock, and we're the real thing. And he goes, oh, that's great. That's why I put the ad out. I wanted to see if I could get the real band to respond to it. You guys do you want to play? And it was
Wow.
the club in Santa Monica called the Music Machine, and so we called up Mark Whites and Gene Gunnels, and so we went and did the show. Um, we and it was just that one night. It was great. It was, and that kind of got us thinking, whoa, and it was sold out, and everybody loved it. So we thought, hey, oh goodness gracious, maybe we better be doing this. So we did. We started doing it. We went up to Lake Tahoe and did it, and then somewhere in the late '80s, we ended up with an agent, and he started booking us all over the place, and so it just kept going. But we never really thought it would. We didn't even plan to get back together. It just sort of happened.
It just started happening. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it was great,
And it just happened, and
and it just keeps happening. So, and we've had a blast with it. So.
which is the bottom line. There's the website, gang, strawberryalarmclock.com. Check out the website and you find out we can get all the music. And of course, all the original stuff is out there. People can get it, on the internet, on iTunes, probably Spotify,
Yeah,
Amazon, everywhere, right?
yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah,
Right. And keep abreast of new things, new music, he said, is coming out, which I think is really
yeah.
exciting. So we'll look forward to that as well. Do you ever get to the East Coast, you guys?
Well, that picture you had, we were in New York there. Um, we do occasionally, but we don't. Like I said, we don't have an agent. So
Yeah.
and so we used to have an
You
agent,
just
and
you
then we
just
were
get
going out. We were, but
you just get on the plane, and if you go, you go, right?
we get calls, and people say, hey, we would like to book your band. What does it take? But we're not like a touring band, so it takes a lot. We have to it's like a one-off show that we have to end up having to do all the time. So it's not cheap to fly everybody, put everybody up in a
Oh,
hotel,
no,
have
it's
all the
it's a
equipment there.
tremendous expense, right? Yeah, yeah. And it has to make sure that it makes money, not
Yeah,
just to break even, but to
right.
right, but to actually, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
which is so true. And yeah, really amazing when you think about it. I mean, the amount of years that you guys have been doing this, and you know, what would the George of today say to the younger version of George, to this George here?
yeah, that's funny. Um, I would have to say, keep plugging away. don't 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 let your guard down, and don't quit practicing. Just keep doing it. Keep writing, keep playing, keep enjoying it.
Yeah.
But that is what I did. So
Well, you look wide-eyed there. You know what I mean? You look like excited. You look like good things are gonna come. You know what I mean? Which is cool.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's an
We've done.
8-year-old.
How old were you there?
18.
18 in that shot.
Yeah.
See, and you full head of hair still. I mean, it's good stuff. It's all in the genes.
Yeah, I just got it cut too. Looks
See?
pretty.
George, this was really fantastic. You're the best. Thanks for stopping by the Jim Masters Show live series. We really appreciate all the time, taking us down memory lane, taking us behind the scenes of what it was all like for you individually, and then of course your time with the group, and how it all started for you, and the things, your passions, and some of the cool stories with the family and the manager, all these different things, and why you love doing what you do, and of course being a part of the iconic group that it is, as a founding member is quite extraordinary as well. We hope you'll stop by again. We'll keep the porch light on for
Yeah.
you, and hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you, George.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
It was a real pleasure. Yeah,
The
and
other trick that I had was having the perfect wife. We've been together since 1970.
what's her name? What's her first name?
Claire,
Claire.
Claire Bunnell, And funny thing is, when we first met, this is just a quickie. Her mom, she tells her mom, she goes, "What does he do?" And she goes, "He's a musician. He's a bass player." And her mom goes, "Oh no," because her mother's father was a bass player for 20th Century Fox, and he did like all the Shirley Temple movies. And
Oh yeah.
movies he played double bass. See, go figure.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That is so cool. And Toby, we thank Toby as well. Toby Simmons, she's fantastic, our mutual friend. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Toby. Who's watching and commenting as well, and appreciate and love her. And Veronica Lee says it's 11:58 a.m. on Thursday already in Australia, and
Yeah.
she's watching and enjoying. And Jane's watching in Sweden. Great show. Thank you, George, for being here tonight. Thanks, Jim. Pretty late into the hour overseas in Sweden right about now.
Yeah.
Very late in the hour. And Veronica Lee says, thank you, George. Fascinating journey indeed. Absolutely. StrawberryAlarmClock.com is the site for the group. And George, thanks for stopping by again. If you know other folks you think would like to pop on the show, they all tell each other, spread the word, and continued blessings and joy in your life. And thanks for all the great music so far. We look forward to exciting things that you're working on in the future. We look forward to that.
Okay. You'll hear about it real soon.
Cool stuff. All right. Thanks for being with us, George. We really appreciate it. It was a blast.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. You take care now. Now go eat something. Did you eat? The dog ate, but did you eat?
No, I didn't eat.
The dog comes first. Yes.
Yeah.
Priorities. All right. You be well. Go eat, and we'll chat again soon, my friend.
Okay.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
The iconic George Bunnell here on the Jim Masters Show, one of the founding members of Strawberry Alarm Clock, legendary bassist, singer, songwriter as well, and an amazing guy, a real gentleman, a terrific performer, and great stories too, right? Some fantastic stories taking you down memory lane, but also having an opportunity to hear some behind the scenes of what it was like, over the years, and some of the interesting things that happened over the years as well, different iterations of Strawberry Alarm Clock, and of course about George's background too, how he got started at like age 2. So just some cool shots review a little bit here. And if you missed anything, you can see this entire episode in its entirety right here as well. Our YouTube channel houses all of the episodes. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of episodes. I mean, almost 1,000 episodes of our show, our series, the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series, are there for the taking, with guests from Broadway and Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, inspiration, life, celebrity friends stop by the show, and many others from all different backgrounds. And it's really, really cool. And again, check them out. Pick up some of their music. Look for the new stuff. There's Steve Klinich, of course. He was a guest on our show. If you didn't see that episode, check it out. It's on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Again, maybe you just learned about the group for the first time and about George. Sometimes that happens. We have folks that watch from all around the world. We have this series, the Jim Masters Show, is multi-generational. People watch from all different backgrounds and all regions of the globe, which is really cool. We hear from so many people who watch our series from all around the world, all different ages, all different backgrounds, all different interests, which I think is really terrific. That's why our show is an entertainment lifestyle variety talk show, like the old school talk shows with a modern vibe, because we have something on the show for everybody. And you learn something too. You learn some cool things about some of the making of the music over the years as well, which I think is really, really cool. And some of the experiences over the years as well, which was really great. So good stuff here on the Jim Masters Show. That's a great shot too. And those are recent photos. That's from Whiskey A Go Go. Yep. Really, really cool. Nice stuff. And we appreciate all this. And we appreciate all of you. Don't forget to give this episode a like on our YouTube channel. There's a big, huge thumbs up like on our YouTube channel. Give it a like. And also leave a comment for us. We would love that. We're very interactive. We appreciate you leaving a comment on the YouTube channel. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That's where we house all of these episodes for your viewing pleasure. Thanks for all of the great comments. We hear from you on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm at Jim Masters TV on all of those social media platforms. Check us out there as well. And more great shows coming up. We've got incredible guests that are coming up throughout the week and every single day. Tomorrow, we've got a legendary actor. He's an extraordinary actor, popular film, television actor, and producer. Ruben Roberto Gomez is going to be here. You've seen him in just about everything. He's coming up on our show this weekend. Sam Lowe is coming up, country music singer, songwriter, and more. He's joining us with great music and conversation and lots more. That's just a few of the many guests that are happening for you here on the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. This was another great episode. Thanks, gang, for watching. We appreciate your being here, all the great comments. And we thank George for joining us as well. Coming to us from beautiful Calabasas, California. Been there many times, and we were talking at the top of the show about some of the great eateries there in Calabasas. I had an opportunity to be there several times, and it's just a beautiful part of California. Great to have George with us, gang. Really, really enjoyed it, and hope you did too. Leave a comment on our YouTube channel for us. Give us a like, subscribe, and all the rest. And thanks for being with us in this episode of the Jim Masters Show live series. We love you all. Appreciate you all. Thanks for all the great comments, all the words, and all the levity. And Uniclaire in the Philippines says, keep doing great, Jim. Be you. Clap, clap, clap. Fantastic show. Thank you very much for those kind words. I really appreciate that. And I hope you're having a beautiful day there in the Philippines. On the other side of the globe, we have an international audience here, and we love the fact that we do. Thank you, Jim, for another great show. Thank you, Kathleen in New York City. We appreciate you being here as well. And again, we will eat and relax. 3:05 a.m. now in Sweden, in Europe, and afternoon now on Thursday in Australia. Yeah, our viewers come from all around the world. Wherever you're watching us from, whatever time of day it is, thanks for being with us here on the Jim Masters Show. We really appreciate you being here and for your time and spending some time with us. And whether you learned about George for the first time and the group for the first time, or you're a big fan and you've been fans of theirs for years and of George's, it's extraordinary, talented George Bunnell. Thanks for spending time with us and stopping by the show. More great shows coming up here for you. And again, don't forget to hit that button, the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Look for the word subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. And make sure you click the notification bell so you never miss any of our episodes. You'll be alerted every time we have episodes, and we're uploading episodes and all kinds of cool things like that. You'll be alerted because you'll have clicked the notification bell. It's a little bell icon that's next to the word subscribe. Thanks for being with us. You're the best. Only the best on JMS. Around here, we don't say goodbye. We say see you later. Ciao, cheers, slancha, moilu, shalom, hasta la vista, buenas noches, and sayonara. And what else do we say? Cheerio and cheers. And be well. We'll see you again soon. Okay. We love you all. And thanks for watching this episode of the Jim Masters Show live series. We'll see you on the next one. We'll be right here waiting for you. And again, you can also binge right here on the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. You can binge watch hundreds and hundreds of previous episodes and enjoy. Be well. See you on the next episode. Cheers.